To be back. I believe most of you probably recognize me. I have done some of these sessions before, but I'll just quickly introduce myself if there's anyone new who doesn't know who I am. I'm Sophia Janson. I go by Fika, and I'm a physical therapist here at the GW Outpatient Rehabilitation Center. And I specialize in geriatrics. And one of the programs that I run here at GW is the Fall Prevention Clinic. So anything related to balance and fall prevention is very near and dear to my heart. I attend a lot of seminars, extra education opportunities on this topic. And then, like I said, I've been doing therapy for a long time. I've been a therapist for over 30 years. And this is one of the areas of my focus. So I am going to share my screen with you guys for the first part of today's topic or today's lecture, because I do have a PowerPoint prepared. And we'll talk about dual tasking, what that is, how it's important when we think about balance training and fall prevention. And then we are going to get moving. We're going to do some exercises where we incorporate what we just learned. So the first half is going to be kind of learning a little bit about this, but then we are going to get moving and we'll make sure that we have time for questions at the end. So let me try to share my screen here. And let me see if I can put this in slideshow. Let's see. Give me 1 second so I can put it in the actual slideshow. I'm going to unshare here a second just to get that going. Sorry about that. Okay, we should be. Okay, can you guys see the screen here?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And does it look like it's just the one slide at a time, or is it all the slides?
I'm seeing one
slide at a time.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Looks good.
Okay, perfect. Here we go. All right, so the presentation today is called Doing What While Doing What? The Impact of Dual Tasks on Balance. So I attended our annual physical therapy conference last year, and the current focus for our profession when it comes to balance training is this concept of dual task training. And since I know this group well, I know you guys are motivated seniors who are very interested in doing everything you can to assure successful aging and reducing fall risk. I think this is a really important topic to cover. Knowing about dual task training will get you more bang for your buck when it comes to doing your balance exercises. So what is this thing called dual tasking? Without getting too much into the weeds of neuroscience and human motor control, let's think for a minute about how a baby learns to move. They learn one task at a time. Like a baby will first learn how to roll over, then they learn how to sit, then they crawl, then they stand, and then they walk. And they do one task at a time. And over time, with a lot of repetition of those tasks, the movements become smoother, they become more automatic. And that allows the brain to kind of run those movements in the background, thus allowing you to do another task at the same time. So dual tasking is the act of combining two distinct tasks. Each task has its own distinct goal. When we talk about this in the context of balance, we mean walking or standing while we're doing something else. And we'll go into the different types of other tasks. There's usually a cost to dual tasking. So if you are trying to do that, one or both of the tasks may be compromised. And this is why this is important to fall risk, because your fall risk may increase as a result of that dual task cost. Now, we dual task all the time. We have since we were infants. Functional balance never really happens in isolation. We always are doing two things at once. For example, we may be standing and balancing and brushing our teeth or pouring our cup of morning coffee. We may be walking and talking with a friend, or we're walking and trying to zip up our coat or opening our umbrella. It's very rare that we're not doing two things at once. Now, what we know about dual tasking is that this is something that decreases, our ability decreases to do this effectively as we age. And most of the time, not all, but most of the time, the automatic task, the task that we're not thinking about, is the one that suffers the most. So let me give you an example of how they illustrated this with us in one of the seminars that I went to. We were in a big lecture hall, and two participants were selected. One was someone in their 20s, one was someone in their 60s. We stood at one side of the room. We were asked just to walk across the room. Both of us did that about the same. We walked from one end to the other. Then we were asked to walk across the room while we were sending a text on our phone. And the 20-some-year-old did that way faster than the 60-year-old. Now, texting on a phone may not be the best example because it is something that younger people are just better at. But you could do that same experiment with different kinds of challenges. When we are trying to do something else while we're walking, as we age, the ability to do that automatic task, meaning the walking, will decline. And therapists are not surprised that this is something that the research is telling us, because what we're finding with our patients, a lot of times we'll bring patients into the clinic and we do different balance tests with them. Like I may ask somebody to stand on one leg or stand with one foot in front of the other. And really the balance looks pretty good. And I'm like, oh, this looks pretty good. And then the patient comes in the next time and says, well, I had a fall. And we're a little bit surprised maybe because we thought, well, that balance looked pretty good. And then when we start asking more questions, the patient may say, well, you know, I was in my kitchen and I was trying to remember the list of ingredients I needed to pull out of the pantry cabinet for the recipe I was making, and I slipped. Or, you know, I was walking outside and my phone was in my purse and it started to ring and it was an important call that I didn't want to miss. And while I was walking, I was digging in my bag for my phone and I tripped and I fell. So that's a perfect example of where the dual task, adding that second task, took away from the first task and increased somebody's risk for falls. Now, I do want to point out that dual tasking is not the same as multitasking. Multitasking requires you to stop one task to attend to the other task. So that would mean like I'm typing on the phone and my spouse walks in and asks, or I'm typing on the computer, spouse walks in, I stop typing, I answer him. Now I turn and I look at what somebody's saying on the television. Multitasking requires that stopping from one to turn to the next, to turn to the next. Dual tasks are different in that the two tasks are being completed at the same time. Sometimes therapists may have somebody walk and just carry a bag or a weight or even a cup of water. That's not really a dual task because you're just carrying something. You're not really interacting with that bag. It's when you add the task of now I'm trying to find something in the bag, or now I'm trying to drink from this cup. Now it becomes a dual task. The presenter at one of the courses had a good example. He said he was at the airport and he was going down the stairs and there was somebody walking very slowly because they were on their phone and they were drinking some kind of beverage while they were going down the stairs. And without even knowing, their walking down the stairs had slowed significantly because that task was compromised because they were doing the other tasks on top of it. So that's kind of the concept of dual tasks. And there are different ones. And so we're going to go over the different ones. So before we do that, since we know that the ability to dual task decreases with age, there's two things I want people to take away from this lecture today. One, okay, what can I do about that? And there are ways that we can train this, and that's what we're going to do today. And that's a lot of times therapists will do this in the clinic as well. We're going to figure out some ways, and I want to teach you guys some ways that you can practice this so that you can minimize this reduction. But on the flip side, it's also important just to be aware that this is something that happens. So there may be times where we really need to stop and think, should I really be doing these two things at the same time? Am I really increasing my risk for falls? And we'll talk more as we practice these different scenarios. We'll talk more about what would have been maybe a smarter choice to eliminate the dual task altogether. All right, so I'm gonna show you a couple different slides here, and we will go through the different types of dual tasks. So there's four. The first, we call those manual tasks, and that's you are walking or standing, and you're doing something physical with your hands. So you can see this person is carrying a tray. I already mentioned the example of digging in your purse for something, zipping up the jacket, anything that you have to use your hands for. Even, more basic, standing, brushing your teeth, pouring the cup of coffee, anything in the kitchen. You're using your hands for a specific task while you're walking. Then the next one, dual tasks are cognitive tasks. So this means you're thinking about something while your brain has your walking pattern on automatic. You're not thinking about that. You're thinking about maybe what were the 5 items that I wanted to pick up at the grocery store? Or what time was that doctor's appointment? Or what did the doctor tell me about the different medication changes I should be making? You're thinking about something else while you're walking. And then the next type is auditory. So that just means listening while you're doing the primary task of walking or standing. So that could be having a conversation on the phone, having a conversation with a friend or a relative while you're walking, listening to someone giving you directions, just basically what it sounds like with auditory, that you're paying attention to a stimulus that you're listening to. And then the final one is visual. And so this is looking at landmarks while you're walking, trying to find, a house number, street sign, paying attention to all the young people whizzing by you on their scooters while you're walking. You're still doing your primary task, but you've added the secondary task where your eyes are looking and focusing on things. Okay, so I'm going to stop my screen share and we are going to practice these so that you can kind of get a better idea of what this looks like. Before we start, I want to make sure that as I put you through these different challenges that people feel safe doing them. So make sure that if you're not comfortable doing the exact way that I ask because you feel like, oh, no, I'm getting a little unbalanced here, hold on. If you're using a rollator, hold on to that, or if you're needing to hold on to the chair or desk. And if you feel fine, then you can certainly challenge yourself a little bit more. So let's do a cognitive dual task first. So I want everyone to stand up. And we're going to do, you have a couple of options. You can either just march in place. You can either sidestep, kind of like you're stepping over a small box, or you can walk forwards and backwards. Now, while we're doing that, I'm going to ask you to do a cognitive task. So the first one that I want people to do out loud while you are doing your task, so pick your task. And now everyone, I want you to list as many breeds of dogs as you can think of. So I'm not doing this out loud, I'm not giving it away, but you, while you're doing your motor task, keep thinking about breeds of dogs. We're going to do this for another 15 seconds. Very good. I hope people did fine, or you may find like, oh wow, that was a little bit hard. So let's try another cognitive task. And this one, you can do your same first task. You can do your sidestepping, or you can do your marching. These are great balance exercises. Or you can do your forward, backward walking. And I want you to list foods that start with the letter B, like bread or bacon. So do your task. We're going to do this for about 30 seconds. Keep trying to come up with foods. Okay, very good. And then we'll do one more that's maybe for those who are a little bit more math oriented. We'll do one or two with some numbers. Again, this is a cognitive dual task. So you're going to do your primary task, and while you're doing that, I want you to try to count backwards from 100 by 7. Very good, very good. All right, I'll give you one more, and let's do girls' names that start with the letter M, like Mary. So try to list as many as you can while you're doing your balance exercise. Okay. Good. So we just did some cognitive dual task training. And these are just some random examples of things that you could do, but they suggest like do things that are meaningful to you. So if you hate math, you never want to do a math problem, don't do that one as your dual task. Maybe you could try, let's say you're going to a meeting and you wanted to come across real personable. You're going to list the names of all the people that you know are going to be there. You may even like do your balance exercise and think about one particular characteristic, like Mary has red hair and Tom uses the walker. Something that your brain is thinking about that's important to you. Or you could think about what you're going to serve for a holiday meal or something that's meaningful to you while you're doing your balance exercise. All right, so I hope everyone has a small ball, or you know, if you don't, you can use anything that's near you, like you know, if your phone or pen or something, small pillow, something that you can use to manipulate with your hands, because we're going to do a manual dual task next. So let's, for the first one, while you're doing your marches, we're going to try to do a little toss of the ball. If you drop it, just let it go. Don't try to dive after it. And this gets harder if my task is a little harder. Good. And before I forget, another great example of a cognitive dual task is ballroom dancing, because you're moving, but your brain is thinking about all the steps and the sequences. So it's a great way to do a little dual task thing that's fun. All right, let's try another one with the ball. This time, we're still going to do our primary task. Again, you can either do your sidestepping, your marching, your forward, backward walking. The task with your hands is I want you to turn the ball behind you, then toss it. So I'm going to sidestep. I'm bringing the ball behind me, and I'm tossing it. And this is harder for me. If you're not doing it and you're just watching me, you may even see that I'm slowing down as I'm doing that, because now I'm even getting off a little bit. I'm also talking, so it's another task. I hope that was a good example of that dual task cost. As I was doing the challenge of passing the ball behind me, tossing it, and trying to step, all of a sudden the stepping became a lot less smooth, a lot more interrupted. And so again, that's something that you could practice on your own. You know, with a small ball, you're already doing your balance exercises. Let me try to just do something manually. And it can be with a ball. You know, digging in a bag is another great one that's very appropriate for a real life situation. All right, so we have two other ones. Well, these won't take as long. We're gonna do an example of the auditory one. So everyone get back up. And I want you to do your primary task. And I'm going to read off some instructions. And these would be like baking instructions. And I want you to listen while you're marching, thinking, okay, she's going to ask me to repeat these back. So we're doing our primary task. The instructions are: mix 1 cup of flour with a teaspoon of salt, stir in 1 cup of milk, and add 2 eggs. All right, so I know we're muted and we can't really talk, but think about, do we remember the 4 things that I just said? Mix 1 cup of flour, teaspoon of salt, 1 cup of milk, 2 eggs. And we can do another one while we're up. So let's add a different physical task. I'm going to do my side stepping this time. I'm going to give you directions as if I wanted you to come to my house. So I want you to listen, try to see if you can repeat them back. Turn left on Park, left on Mason, right on Wilson, left on Washington. Think about, oh, did I get all 4 streets that she said while I was doing it? Or did I feel like when I was trying to pay attention to the 4 streets, did I stop stepping? Did I recognize that dual task cost? Okay, and then the last one is the visual one. And this one, it's a little bit specific to where you are. But what I'd like people to try to do while they're doing that same primary task is I want you to look around where you are and identify everything in your space that is the color black. So scan your room and list everything that you see that is the color black. Good. This one, it's probably better to practice this one in the real world. So as you're going down the hall in your apartment building, maybe challenge yourself to turn and look at the unit numbers on the doors as you pass them. Or purposely just challenge yourself if you're walking on a section of the sidewalk. I'm going to look and see if I can read a couple of license plates as I pass them. So I'm wondering how everyone did. So feel free to unmute if somebody wants to share how they felt they did.
it did make a difference.
You notice the difference?
Yep. More with the visual
Uh-huh.
and the auditory versus the other two.
Interesting. Okay. So you felt like it was a little harder to keep the marching or the sidestepping going while you were trying to follow the directions.
Yes.
Interesting. And that's, the dual task cost for one person is not going to be the same as for someone else. Like for me, definitely the passing of the ball and the tossing was the hardest for me. But somebody else may find that something is a little bit hard. One of the other ones is harder. Did anyone else notice like, whoa, this got a little tricky?
The number for me is trying to count backwards from 100. That was,
Oh,
yes. I had to
yes.
stop and think.
Uh-huh. Yes. Yeah. I do the breeds of dogs a lot with patients, and I find that one hard myself, and I love dogs. And yet when I'm having to do the physical task and then name the breeds, it becomes quite challenging. All right, so I hope that people kind of got an idea, like, yes, there's something to this. Certainly the research is very solid on, yes, people do have a dual task cost. We do lose some of our walking ability if we are adding those other challenges to it. And I hope that as we kind of went through this, that you have some ideas like, I could incorporate some of this into my training. I do some balance exercises regularly. I'd like to step it up a little bit and make it a little bit harder. This is a nice way to do that. But I also really want people to think about, maybe there are times when I should just avoid this. So, for example, if you found this really challenging, things like trying to get something out of a purse or a bag while you're walking, maybe it's better to just stop, then get the phone out. Closing the umbrella while you're walking. Don't try to carry a stack of books while you're walking, up an uneven sidewalk, or definitely the stairs. Walking upstairs while we're 100% focused when it's a primary task, we can do that. That becomes a lot harder when we add a dual task. You may want to, if you're walking like with a grandchild or somebody who wants to tell you a really good story, and you're somewhere where the sidewalk's pretty uneven, you may want to say, hold on one second, I want to really pay attention to what you're trying to tell me, but let's wait till we get to that bench, and then we'll sit and talk. Or if you're out on vacation and you're walking and you say, oh, what a beautiful view, stop before getting the camera out and taking a picture, or even stop just to really look around and take in the beautiful scenery where you are. And then let's see, we did talk about ways that you can incorporate this into training already. The courses that I've been to, they do strongly advise people to make the challenges meaningful to you. I already mentioned that one. So if, I know a lot of you are active in the community. If you have a presentation to give, rehearse it while you're doing your balance exercises. If you wanted to do the auditory one, you could listen to something on the television like the weather forecast and then repeat it back. Or even listening to a podcast intently while you're on a walk. Now you're listening and walking, as long as you're able to safely do that, with the intent, I'm going to repeat the key points of this podcast. Does anyone have any other ideas or suggestions of ways that they may start to try to do this themselves?
Going through a museum.
Perfect. Right. That's perfect. You know, you're really, you could do both visual dual tasking as you're scanning what's there. And then if you read it and thought about it, while you're walking to the next part of the museum, you're thinking, wow, that was really interesting. You're able to do a couple of dual tasks at once. Anybody else have experience where this impacted, where they think, oh, maybe a fall did happen as a result of this? The examples I gave, for the most part, are real patients, like the pulling out the camera on vacation. That was just a patient last week who told me he had a pretty bad fall on vacation because he was trying to get the camera ready while he was walking on a kind of uneven, unfamiliar terrain.
I think also using public transportation, getting on and off a bus or in a subway car.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, rushing for the bus. So maybe just the rushing, if you're 100% focused, like, oh, here comes the bus, you could do that as your primary task. If you're now thinking about, I'm going to miss that doctor's appointment. I've waited 6 months to get in to see this doctor. I can't miss this bus. And now you're rushing and your brain is thinking about that other problem, then it becomes, you know, it becomes potentially more of an issue.
What's challenging for me is walking across the street, and as you're walking, looking to the left to make sure there's no traffic going through the light, looking to the left and then back to the right.
Mm-hmm. Right. And that's that visual scanning. Any of you who've come to see us in the clinic, you know that we do that with our patients. We'll make you walk looking left and right. If that's something that you notice that every time I turn my head side to side, I really lose my balance, that would be something to let your doctor know about. And we should probably actually do a therapy evaluation for it. If it's just something that you're like, I just don't feel as comfortable or I slow down, that's a perfect one to practice in a safe environment. Practice walking, turning the head, looking at items on the left.
But not left, right, left.
Well, I mean, you don't want to go left, right, like a really rapid head spin. That could cause issues, you know, in itself. That's a little different from a dual task.
So should you just go right and then forward, right and then forward?
You
Is
could
that
go
better?
Yeah, you could do that. I mean, you certainly, if you went right and you took like 4 steps forward, then left, back to the center, 4 steps, then right, that would be okay as a dual task challenge. Just not whipping your head side to side.
Thank you.
Welcome.
On DC sidewalks, you have to kind of keep the sidewalks in your scan too.
Exactly.
You got to be looking left, right, down, left, right, down.
Exactly. I mean, we all know that is, you know, our number one challenge in this town is negotiating these sidewalks. So most of us do this every day. Again, if you know a particularly challenging sidewalk, just focus on that sidewalk when you're having to walk that particular block rather than any of the other dual tasks that we talked about. Well, it looks like we might be finishing a little bit early unless anybody else has questions about this.
Last questions, comments for Dr. Janson? You want to, I get this question a couple times after programs. Do you want to remind people how best to get in touch with you or get in touch with the office if they want to make an appointment? What the proper procedure is there?
Sure. So we do, in order for us to see you here at the GW Outpatient Rehab Clinic, we do need a referral from your doctor. And that can be, you know, any doctor that knows you and is willing to write a therapy referral. If you'd like, once you have a referral, if you'd like to send me an email, you know, I can make sure that Nadia gives out my email, then I can assist you with how to get on the schedule once you have a referral.
I found this very, very helpful. Thank you.
Oh, you're most welcome.
I see.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Janson. Anyone else have any last thoughts or comments?
Yes, I see this is recorded. How are we able to listen to the recording?
I will send out. Well, first I'll upload it to YouTube, and then I'll send out a link to watch the program to anyone that signed up, because there were a number of people that signed up but didn't make it to the Zoom today. And when you go to our YouTube channel, which is Foggy Bottom West End Village on YouTube, you can see the playlist of all of Dr. Janson's previous classes. If you want to work through all the various falls prevention classes she's put on over the last few years, as well as other exercise classes and programs on our YouTube channel there. It's got lots of fun content that I would recommend, but I will send out that link to everyone that signed up for the program.
Good, I look forward to that.
Thank you very much. Any other questions or comments? Okay, well, I just want to say thank you again to Dr. Janson, and to stay tuned for other upcoming programs, either with the village or in the community. Nadia, do you have anything to say, or should we just wrap it up?
No, I just wanted to thank Dr. Janson for the new research information, because sometimes you think that fall prevention is a one-dimensional approach, and there are other complications and other challenges that you could do on your own.
Very good.
Yeah.
You got exactly what I was hoping that people would get out of the lecture. Very good.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of your day.